The hegemony fleet appeared without warning above Earth's atmosphere. 200 vessels strong, weapons primed. Fleet Admiral Vex Oromar of the Galactic Hegemony transmitted a simple message. Primitive species, submit or perish. Fleet Commander. Kira Novastorm stood on the bridge of the ESV Defiance, Earth's most advanced warship. Her golden eyes, an augmentation from her years as a deep space pilot, narrowed as she studied the tactical display. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this moment, although the politicians and peacekeepers had desperately hoped it would never come. "They've blockaded 7 major cities, Commander," reported Lieutenant Dax Riven, his fingers dancing. Over the tactical console, the young officer's cybernetic arm, a replacement after the Mars colony uprising, hummed softly as he worked. "Their energy signatures are unlike anything we've documented." Kira's lips pressed into a thin line. After the Proxima Centauri massacre, where alien scouts had vaporized Earth's first extrasolar colony, claiming it territorial infringement, humanity had extended peace offerings to 12 different spacefaring civilizations. For 8 decades, they had practiced restraint, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. "Open a channel," Kira ordered. The command center fell silent as her words echoed through the vast chamber. "This is Fleet Commander Novastorm of Earth Space Command. We request immediate dialogue and cessation of aggressive positioning." A harsh laugh crackled through the speakers. "Dialogue? With livestock? The hegemony has observed your kind for generations. You are violent, fractious, and technologically primitive. Your proper place is servitude." Behind Kira, Defense Minister Alara Vantian whispered, "The Arcturus Protocol?" The commander's jaw tightened. The Arcturus Protocol was humanity's darkest contingency, a set of military directives developed in secret for exactly this scenario. For decades, while publicly pursuing peace, Earth's unified governments had quietly built an arsenal that would make even advanced civilizations pause. "Transmit final warning," Kira commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of what would follow. "Hegemony vessels, withdraw immediately or face consequences." Such arrogance. Vex Oromar's voice dripped with contempt. "Perhaps we should demonstrate proper respect. Target their lunar colony." Before Kira could respond, a blinding beam lanced from the Hegemony flagship. The Armstrong City dome on the moon, home to 17,000 civilians, cracked like an eggshell, atmosphere venting into the vacuum. Silence fell across the bridge, broken only by the soft beeping of consoles. Then, Kira spoke the words that would change galactic history forever. "They've made their choice," Arcturus Protocol authorized. "Authentication code Omega-73 Delta." Defense Minister Vantian's hands trembled slightly as she opened a secured case containing 2 crystal keys. "May whatever gods exist forgive us." Throughout the solar system, hidden installations powered up. Beneath the ice of Europa, weapons platforms that had masqueraded as research stations emerged. In the asteroid belt, mining operations transformed into missile batteries. From the dark side of Mercury, electromagnetic pulse arrays pivoted toward the invading fleet. All this time, Lieutenant Riven whispered, "We were ready." Humanity extended. "Peace for 80 years, Kira replied, her voice hollow. "We gave them every chance. Now they learn why our history books are filled with war." As the first volley of quantum-tipped missiles streaked toward the Hegemony fleet, Kira addressed her crew one final time before battle. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for a principle. Any species that mistakes restraint for weakness deserves neither mercy nor quarter. Weapons free, no limits." Across Earth's defense grid, 10,000 gunners received the same order. The night sky blazed with humanity's answer to tyranny. The war had begun. 6 months into what became known as the Extinction War, humanity's initial. Fury had evolved into methodical devastation. Commander Kira Novastorm stood in the wreckage of what had once been the hegemony's primary communications hub on Proxima Centauri 4. Around her, specialized soldiers of the 15th Phantom Brigade swept the ruins for intelligence. Their exoskeletons, powered by the same dark energy technology the aliens had once mocked as primitive, allowed them to lift massive chunks of debris with ease. "Commander," called Specialist Reese Valoran, his face partially obscured by neural interface, scars that connected him directly to his combat systems. "We've found something." Kira stepped carefully through the rubble toward the specialist. In the remains of what appeared to be a data center, he had uncovered a crystalline storage matrix, the hegemony equivalent of a secure server. "Can you extract it?" she asked. "Already done," Reese replied, uploading the alien data through his neural link to their secure quantum network. "But there's more. This facility, it's older than their first contact with us." Kira frowned. "Impossible. The hegemony claimed they discovered Earth only a decade ago. Evidence suggests this outpost has been monitoring us for at least 3 centuries. The revelation sent a chill through Kira's cybernetically enhanced nervous system. If true, the implications were staggering. The hegemony hadn't stumbled upon humanity. They had been watching, waiting, manipulating from the shadows. Back aboard, the Defiance, now upgraded with captured hegemony technology, Science Director Pell Ironheart analyzed the recovered data. Once a theoretical physicist, Pell had lost his family in the lunar colony attack and now channeled his brilliant mind toward understanding enemy weaknesses. "They've been playing a longer game than we realized," Pell explained, projecting a holographic timeline. "The hegemony consists of 27 subjugated species. Each one followed the same pattern: initial contact, diplomatic overtures, then sudden overwhelming force. But we fought back," Lieutenant Riven observed. "Unlike the others." "Precisely." Pell's eyes gleamed with a mixture of anger and scientific fascination. "According to these records, we're the first species to survive their first strike. They expected us to capitulate within hours." Defense Minister Vantian, her face haggard from months of coordinating Earth's war effort, studied the data. "There's something else here. Something about genetic compatibility?" Pell nodded grimly. "That appears to be their true interest in Earth. Human DNA has unusual properties: adaptability, resilience. They weren't planning to just conquer us. They intended to harvest us." The room fell silent as the full horror of the hegemony's intentions became clear. Humanity hadn't just been fighting for independence. They had been fighting for their very existence as a species. "There's more," Pell continued, his voice dropping. "The hegemony isn't the true power. They answer to something called the ascendancy, a higher echelon of species that directs the expansion." Kira's tactical mind immediately grasped the strategic importance. "So we're not just fighting an empire, we're fighting a proxy." "Correct. And there's evidence that other species have been engineered to fail against the hegemony. Something about cultivating proper genetic stock through artificial selection." Kira paced the briefing room, her mind racing. "So they seed worlds, guide their development, then harvest them when they reach the right technological threshold." "Like farmers," Vantian whispered, "and we're the crop that fought back." That night, as the Defiance prepared to jump to the next target system, Kira recorded a message to be transmitted to Earth's unified command. "The enemy we face is more insidious than we imagined. This isn't just about territory or resources. It's about the fundamental right of our species to exist on our own terms. In light of this revelation, I am implementing Phase 2 of the Arcturus Protocol. The gloves come off completely. We will not just defeat the hegemony, we will dismantle their entire empire world by world, fleet by fleet, until we reach the ascendancy itself." As she finished recording, Kira gazed at the stars through the viewport. Somewhere out there, The true architects of this conflict watched, perhaps with growing concern. They had cultivated humanity for centuries, only to discover they had bred their own destruction. The hunt had begun. The Arcturus Protocol's Phase 2 transformed Earth's defensive war into a systematic dismantling of the hegemony's power structure. Humanity's warships, now augmented with reverse-engineered alien technology, struck deep into enemy territory, targeting command nodes and liberating subjugated worlds. On the bridge of the advanced dreadnought Phoenix Rising, Admiral Kira Novastorm reviewed the latest strategic projections with her War Council. 18 months of relentless combat had aged her. A new scar ran from temple to jawline, a souvenir from a boarding action gone wrong, but her resolve had only hardened. "The Vega campaign is complete," reported Commodore Jax Thorne, his artificial eyes glowing faintly as he projected the tactical overview. Once a diplomat, Jax had reinvented himself as one of Earth's most effective fleet commanders after the hegemony executed his diplomatic team. 7 systems liberated, 3 hegemony, command stations neutralized. "And what of the local populations?" asked Kira, her focus not just on military victories, but on the strategic alliance building that would determine the war's ultimate outcome. "The Nix Collective has formally allied with us," Jax replied. "Their bioengineering capabilities are already being integrated into our medical core. The Veltari remain cautious but have provided navigational data for the Andromeda Spur." Science Director Pell Ironheart, now sporting extensive cybernetic augmentations that connected him directly to the ship's analytical systems, brought up a different display. "More importantly, we've identified a pattern in the hegemony's chain of command. Each sector is controlled through a nexus we're calling a Dominion node, a blend of biological and technological systems." "How many?" Kira asked. 7 total. "We've destroyed 2 already. The 3rd is here." Pell highlighted a heavily fortified system deep in hegemony space. Castrian Prime. The name sent a ripple of tension through the war room. Castrian Prime was the birthplace of Vex Oromar, the hegemony commander who had ordered the lunar colony's destruction. Intelligence suggested he had returned there after the initial failed invasion of Earth. "Casualty projections?" Kira's voice remained steady. "Substantial," Jax admitted. "Their defensive grid is unlike anything we've encountered. Even with our new Lazarus-class destroyers, we're looking at 30% fleet attrition." Kira studied the projections, then made her decision. "We're not going to attack it. Not conventionally." Her statement drew surprised looks from her commanders. "Instead," she continued, "we're going to implement Operation Prometheus." Only Pell seemed to understand immediately, his eyes widening. "Admiral, that technology is still experimental. The ethical implications alone. We're settled when they slaughtered our colonists," Kira cut him off. "The hegemony created this war. They'll live or die with the consequences. Operation Prometheus represented humanity's darkest innovation, technology that could rewrite the quantum signature of matter itself, essentially changing the physical laws within a localized space. Theoretically, it could render an entire star system uninhabitable without firing a single conventional weapon. "Prepare the Prometheus device," Kira ordered, "and get me a direct communication channel to Vex Oromar." 3 days later, the Phoenix Rising emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Castrian system, alone, without the expected invasion fleet. Almost immediately, hegemony defense platforms locked onto the solitary vessel. "Channel open," Lieutenant Riven announced. The aged face of Fleet Admiral Vex Oromar appeared on the main display. Unlike their first encounter, the alien commander showed signs of stress. His scaled skin had darkened, his eyes sunken. "Have you come to surrender, human?" he asked, mandibles clicking in what passed for amusement among his kind. "I've come to offer you one chance," Kira replied. "One more than you gave us. Withdraw the hegemony from all occupied territories, Release all subjugated species and dismantle your military capacity. Laughter erupted from Oromar. Your species' arrogance truly knows no bounds. One ship making demands of an empire that spans 1,000 worlds? Kira's expression remained impassive. One ship carrying one device, a device that can and will rewrite the physical constants of your entire system. Gravity, electromagnetic, force, strong nuclear force, all will be altered just enough to make organic life impossible. The laughter stopped. You're bluffing. No species has such technology. No species had been pushed as far as humanity, Kira countered. You should have studied our history more carefully. When threatened with extinction, we don't negotiate. We innovate. She nodded to Pell, who activated a small-scale demonstration. A probe launched from the Phoenix, detonating near a hegemony outpost on Castrian's outer moon. In moments, all matter within the demonstration zone began to break down at the atomic level as fundamental forces shifted. Oromar's expression changed to one of horror. This is abomination. This is survival, Kira corrected him. You have 6 hours to begin evacuation and signal your surrender. After that, Castrian Prime becomes a physics experiment. As the communication ended, Jax approached his admiral. Will you really do it? Trigger the device? Kira stared at the beautiful blue-green world that was Oromar's homeworld. Pray that I don't have to, but make no mistake, I will. The countdown had begun. The surrender of Castrian Prime marked a turning point in the war. Vex Oromar, once the face of hegemony supremacy, now stood as a reluctant emissary for peace. The demonstration of the Prometheus device, humanity's ultimate deterrent, had sent shockwaves through the galactic community. For the first time in recorded history, the mighty hegemony was in retreat, but victory extracted its toll. Grand Admiral Kira Novastorm sat alone in her quarters aboard the Phoenix Rising, reviewing casualty reports from the liberation of Taraxis. Third. The operation had freed nearly 8 billion sentient beings from hegemony control, but had cost the lives of over 30,000 Earth personnel. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Enter," she called, not looking up. Science Director Pell Ironheart stepped inside, his cybernetic enhancements glinting in the low light. The Taraxian representative wishes to express her people's gratitude. She's been waiting 3 hours. Another. "Time," Kira replied, her voice hollow. Pell studied his commander with concern. Over the 2 years of war, he had watched the idealistic fleet commander transform into something harder, colder, a weapon forged in conflict's fire. "You should see her," he insisted gently. "Remember why we fight." Kira finally looked up, her golden eyes dimmed with exhaustion. "Do I need reminding? I authorized the deployment of 10,000 soldiers who will never return home, and freed billions who can now determine their own destiny," Pell countered, "including species who have been enslaved for millennia." A bitter laugh escaped her. "Is that what I'll tell the families? Your children died for aliens they never met?" Pell took a seat uninvited. "No, you'll tell them their children died ensuring humanity would never face extinction. That every hegemony, world we liberate, is one less threat to Earth." Outside the viewport, the swirling colors of hyperspace provided a hypnotic backdrop to their conversation. The Phoenix Rising was en route to the Centauri Nexus, another Dominion node that controlled hegemony operations across 3 sectors. "Intelligence from our new allies suggests we're making more progress than we realize," Pell continued. "The Ascendancy is concerned. There are reports of internal conflict among their leadership." This caught Kira's attention. "The puppet masters are fighting amongst themselves?" "Precisely. Our actions have triggered something unprecedented, debate about the ethics of their harvesting program." Pell's expression hardened. "Some believe humanity should be exterminated completely before we grow stronger. Others argue we represent evolution." Kira stood and paced to the viewport. And the Prometheus device? They fear it as they should. No species they've encountered has developed the ability to rewrite physical constants. It challenges their technological supremacy. A notification flashed on Kira's console. New intelligence from Earth Command. She quickly scanned the report, her expression darkening. The Ascendancy has dispatched specialized hunters, she said. Something called the Void Talons. They're targeting our key personnel and research facilities. Assassination squads? Pell asked. More like surgical excision. They believe if they remove humanity's leadership and innovative minds, our resistance will collapse. Kira's lips curved in a grim smile. They still don't understand us. The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped out of hyperspace. The Centauri. Nexus loomed ahead, a massive construct surrounded by defense platforms and hegemony warships. The Liberation Fleet is in position, Admiral, Lieutenant Riven reported over the comm. Awaiting your command. Kira straightened her uniform and headed for the door, Pell following close behind. Have the Taraxian representative meet me on the bridge. I want her to witness this. Minutes later, Kira stood before the assembled command, crew and their alien guest, Matriarch Zira of Taraxis, a tall, elegant being with iridescent skin that shifted colors with her emotions. Currently, she radiated a deep blue of reverence. Matriarch, Kira acknowledged with respect. Today, your people will help us free another world from our common enemy. After generations of servitude, we are honored to fight alongside humanity, Zira replied, her translator conveying the emotion in her harmonic language. Though we do not understand why you risk so much for species not your own. Kira turned to the tactical display, where hundreds of allied ships, human and recently liberated species alike, moved into attack formation. Because liberty is meaningless, if it's only for ourselves, she answered, and because every world we free becomes another ally against what's coming. The Ascendancy, Zira whispered, colors shifting to anxious purple. Yes, the true enemy. Kira addressed the bridge crew. All vessels, commence Operation Daybreak. Liberation protocols in effect. Minimal civilian casualties, maximum strategic impact. As the combined fleet surged forward, Kira allowed herself a moment of reflection. The war had changed her, changed humanity. They had entered this conflict fighting for survival, but now fought for something larger, a fundamental restructuring of galactic society. And somewhere, watching from the shadows, the Ascendancy prepared its response. 3 years into humanity's war against the hegemony, Earth's coalition of liberated species controlled nearly 40% of what had once been uncontested enemy territory. The Prometheus device had only been deployed once more against an uninhabited system that housed the hegemony's primary cloning facilities. But its existence served as a powerful deterrent. On Earth itself, society had transformed. Cities shimmered under protective energy domes. Children trained in both diplomacy and combat from an early age. The entire planet had embraced a new paradigm. Never again would humanity be caught unprepared. Grand Admiral Kira Novastorm had returned to Earth, for the first time in 2 years, summoned by the Unified Defense Council. As her shuttle descended through the atmosphere, she gazed at the changed landscape below. Where once stood purely civilian structures, now rose interspersed military installations and research compounds. Beautiful and terrible, murmured Pell, Ironheart, who sat beside her. His cybernetic enhancements had grown more extensive. Nearly 60% of his body was now synthetic, optimized for information processing and scientific analysis. Necessary, Kira replied simply. The shuttle landed at New Geneva, Earth's administrative capital since the war began. They were escorted immediately to the underground chambers where Earth's leadership awaited. Defense Minister Ilara Vantian, Now the effective leader of humanity's war effort rose to greet them. Age and stress had whitened her hair completely, but her eyes remained sharp. "Admiral, Director," she acknowledged. "Welcome home, however briefly." The chamber contained representatives from 17 species, all formerly subjugated by the hegemony, now allied with Earth. The atmosphere was tense. "We've intercepted communication between the Ascendancy and its remaining hegemony proxies," Vantian began without preamble. "They're preparing something called the Final Directive." A holographic display activated in the center of the room, showing a massive construction in deep space, a structure larger than anything humanity had encountered. "This is the Void Crucible," explained Chancellor Morrow of the Nyx Collective, his crystalline exoskeleton glinting under the chamber lights. "According to our intelligence, it generates artificial wormholes on an unprecedented scale." "A new weapons system?" Kira asked, studying the structure. "Worse," Vantian replied. "It's designed to relocate stars." Silence fell over the assembly as the implications sank in. "They intend to move our sun," Pell realized aloud, his enhanced mind calculating the consequences. "Shifting it just half a light year would render Earth uninhabitable within weeks." "Not just Earth," Chancellor Morrow added. "All coalition homeworlds. 17 stars simultaneously displaced, billions of lives extinguished without firing a single conventional weapon." Kira's expression hardened. Throughout the war, she had made difficult decisions, crossed moral lines she once thought inviolable. But she had always maintained a core principle: protect innocent life whenever possible. "How long?" she asked. "The Void Crucible will be operational in 30 days, Vantian answered. "We need a response, Admiral. Your Phoenix fleet is our most advanced force." Kira exchanged glances with Pell before responding. "The Prometheus device was designed to affect matter within a single system. It can't counter something of this magnitude." "Then we need something new," Vantian pressed. "Something they won't expect." After the meeting adjourned, Kira found herself standing on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt city. Dawn was breaking over the mountains, casting long shadows across fortified buildings. "You have a plan?" Pell stated, joining her. It wasn't a question, not a plan, a possibility. Kira turned to face her oldest friend and advisor. "During our campaign in the Andromeda Spur, we discovered references to something the hegemony feared even more than our Prometheus technology. Something called the Singularity Protocol." Pell's enhanced eyes widened slightly. "The theoretical manipulation of space-time itself. But that's beyond even our current capabilities." "Is it?" Kira challenged. "Or have we simply not been desperate enough to try?" The next 20 days became a blur of feverish activity. Earth's greatest scientific minds, human and alien alike, worked alongside Pell to develop the theoretical framework for the Singularity Protocol. Meanwhile, Kira assembled a strike force unlike any seen before. 300 ships from 17 species, each bringing unique capabilities to the coming battle. On the eve of their departure, Kira addressed the combined fleet from the Phoenix. "Rising's command deck. Tomorrow we face an enemy that believes itself the rightful master of all life in this galaxy. An enemy that has cultivated, harvested, and exterminated countless species across millions of years." Her voice carried to every vessel, translated into 17 languages. "They see themselves as gardeners and us as crops. They believe they determine which species thrives and which withers." She paused, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. "We go to tell them they are wrong, that no intelligence, no matter how ancient, has the right to decide another's fate, that the future belongs to those with the will to seize it." A roar of approval, in human voices and alien harmonics alike, answered her. As the massive fleet prepared to jump to the coordinates of the Void Crucible, Pell approached Kira one last time. The singularity protocol is untested, he warned. If our calculations are wrong, we could tear a hole in reality itself. Kira nodded, understanding the stakes. And if we do nothing, 17 worlds die. Sometimes the only choices left are terrible ones. Just like the beginning of this war, Pell observed quietly. No, Kira corrected him, watching as the jump. Counters synchronized across the fleet. At the beginning, we fought for humanity's survival. Now we fight for something greater, the right of all sentient life to chart its own course. The fleet vanished into hyperspace, hurtling toward what would become the most consequential battle in galactic history. The war's end approached. The combined coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace at the calculated coordinates, immediately confronted by the most formidable defensive array ever assembled. The Void Crucible, a massive structure that resembled a mechanical lotus with 1,000 metallic petals, pulsed with energies that distorted the very fabric of space around it. Surrounding it were the remaining hegemony war fleets and, for the first time, vessels bearing the insignia of the Ascendancy itself. Grand Admiral Kira Novastorm stood motionless on the Phoenix Rising's command deck, absorbing the tactical display. Behind her, representatives from 17 liberated species waited in tense silence. They were expecting us, Lieutenant Riven noted, his voice steady despite the overwhelming odds. 4 years of warfare had transformed the once green officer into a hardened veteran. Defensive grid is at full power. Of course they expected us, Kira replied, but they don't know why we're here. On a secure channel, she addressed her fleet commanders. Execute Formation Delta. All vessels maintain. Distance from the Crucible until the signal. Throughout the Coalition Armada, ships began a complex dance, appearing to position themselves for a conventional assault. In reality, they were establishing a precise geometric pattern, one calculated by Pell Ironheart's team over endless sleepless nights. Incoming transmission, Riven announced. Ascendancy frequency. Kira straightened her uniform. On screen, the being that appeared bore little resemblance to any organic life form humanity had encountered. It seemed composed of interlocking, geometric patterns that shifted and reconfigured as it spoke, its voice a harmonic blend that the translation system struggled to interpret. Human Admiral, it began. I am Nexus Prime of the Ascendancy Conclave. Your resistance has been instructive. Few cultivated species achieve your level of insurgency. We're not here to be studied, Kira responded coldly. We're here to end your dominion over sentient life. A ripple passed through the geometric patterns, perhaps amusement. You misunderstand your place in the cosmic order. For billions of years, the Ascendancy has guided evolution throughout this galaxy. We harvest what we sow. It is the natural cycle. There's nothing natural about enslavement and genocide, Kira countered. Today that cycle ends. As they spoke, Coalition vessels continued their precise maneuvering. In the engineering section of the Phoenix Rising, Pell Ironheart monitored the deployment of 17 specialized devices, one contributed by each allied species, each containing unique technological approaches to the same problem. Singularity nodes at 70% alignment, he reported through a secure channel. Need 4 more minutes. On screen, Nexus Prime's patterns shifted to a more rigid configuration. Your coalition cannot prevail through conventional warfare. The Void Crucible will activate in 22 minutes. 17 stars will be displaced. 17 worlds will perish. This is regrettable but necessary evolution. Why? Kira demanded, intentionally prolonging the conversation. What threat do we pose to beings of your advancement? Not threat. Deviation. The entity's patterns pulsed. The Ascendancy maintains order. Species develop along predetermined paths. Humanity rejected its path. You created weapons that violate cosmic constants. You liberated our resource worlds. You introduced chaos into perfection. Around the fleet, the first exchanges of fire had begun, coalition vessels engaging hegemony defenders in what appeared to be a standard military assault. But the Phoenix Rising and 16 other command ships maintained their positions, forming a perfect geometric array around the void crucible. 100% alignment, Pell's voice came through Kira's personal comm. Ready on your command. Kira addressed Nexus Prime one final time. You claim to have guided evolution for billions of years, but there's one fundamental principle of evolution you forgot. And what is that, human? The entity asked. Eventually, the created surpass their creators. Kira cut the transmission and gave the order that would reshape galactic history. Initiate Singularity Protocol. 17 synchronized energy beams, each utilizing different technological principles but calibrated to the same resonance frequency, converged on the void crucible. Where they intersected, space itself began to fold, creating what Pell had termed a controlled singularity cascade. Crucible outer defenses collapsing, Riven reported, his voice tight with concentration as he monitored the unprecedented phenomenon. On the tactical display, the massive structure's energy signature fluctuated wildly. The Ascendancy and Hegemony vessels attempted to interrupt the Coalition's formation, but it was too late. The Singularity Cascade had begun. All vessels, execute emergency jump to fallback coordinates, Kira ordered, her voice calm despite the gravitational anomalies now visibly distorting space around the crucible. As Coalition ships began their coordinated withdrawal, the Ascendancy made one final desperate move. A beam of pure energy, unlike anything in humanity's scientific understanding, lanced from Nexus Prime's flagship, striking the Phoenix Rising directly. Alarms blared throughout the vessel as systems failed in cascading sequence. The bridge lurched violently, throwing crew members against bulkheads. Emergency lighting flickered on as main power collapsed. "Jump drive offline," Riven called out. "We can't withdraw!" Through the viewport, Kira watched as the rest of her fleet escaped to safety, leaving the Phoenix Rising alone before the collapsing void crucible. The Singularity Cascade had taken on a life of its own, drawing the massive structure into a swirling vortex of space-time distortion. "Structural integrity failing," reported the engineering officer. "Hull breach imminent on decks 12 through 17. Pell Ironheart staggered onto the bridge, one of his cybernetic limbs damaged and sparking. "The cascade is stable," he announced. "It worked, Kira. The void crucible is being drawn into its own singularity." Kira nodded, a sense of completion washing over her. "And the Ascendancy vessels?" "Caught in the same gravitational well. They can't escape either." Around them, the Phoenix Rising groaned as structural beams began to buckle. The viewports showed a mesmerizing and terrifying sight. The void crucible collapsing in on itself, dragging the Ascendancy fleet with it. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist around the forming singularity. "All hands to escape pods," Kira ordered. "Abandon ship." As crew members rushed to evacuate, Pell remained beside his admiral. "The pods won't escape the gravitational pull," he said quietly. "You know that." "I do." Kira watched as the last of her bridge crew departed. "But they deserve the chance to try." The two friends stood side by side as the singularity grew, consuming the instruments of destruction that the Ascendancy had built. The Phoenix Rising shuddered continuously now, metal screaming as it was stretched beyond tolerance. "Was it worth it?" Pell asked suddenly. "All of it. The lives lost, the moral lines crossed." Kira turned to face him, her golden eyes reflecting, the swirling chaos visible through the viewport. "Ask the 17 worlds that will see tomorrow's sunrise. Ask the generations that will grow up free from harvesting." A massive structural beam crashed to the deck nearby. The ship's computer announced in a calm voice, "Core breach imminent. Catastrophic failure in 30 seconds. Kira moved to the communications console and activated a general broadcast. Her final message to the Coalition and to Earth. This is Grand Admiral Nova Storm of the Phoenix Rising. The Singularity Protocol was successful. The Void Crucible has been neutralized. The Ascendancy Conclave ships have been drawn into the Singularity. She paused, choosing her final words carefully. Remember this not as a victory of weapons, but as a triumph of unity. 17 species, once enemies or strangers, joined together to claim their right to exist freely. The deck beneath her feet began to splinter as gravitational forces intensified. To Earth and all our allies, the path forward belongs to you now. Build something worthy of the sacrifices made. Build a galaxy where no species claims dominion over another. As the transmission ended, Kira turned back to the viewport. The Singularity had stabilized, a perfect black sphere against the backdrop of stars. Around it, the last remnants of the Ascendancy fleet distorted and stretched as they crossed the event horizon. 5 seconds to core breach, announced the computer. Pell moved to stand beside his commander, his oldest friend. It seems fitting, somehow, he said softly, that we end where it all began, facing the stars. Kira nodded, a strange peace settling over her despite the chaos. Not an end, a beginning, for all of them. As the Phoenix Rising broke apart around them, pulled inexorably toward the Singularity, the last thing Kira saw was the impossible beauty of space-time bending, stars streaking into lines of light that curved around the event horizon. It was destruction and creation simultaneously, a fitting metaphor for humanity's journey. Core breach, announced the computer dispassionately. In that final moment, Grand Admiral Kira Novastorm smiled. Humanity had given the galaxy a chance at peace. When that chance was rejected, they had given the galaxy war with no limits, no pity, and ultimately freedom. The Phoenix Rising collapsed, its atomic components stretching into brilliant streams of matter as they crossed the event horizon. The Singularity pulsed once, blindingly bright, then collapsed in on itself, leaving nothing but empty space where once the greatest threat to galactic freedom had existed. Light years away, on 17, world's sentient beings looked up at skies no longer shadowed by the threat of extinction. On Earth, a new generation prepared to build a different kind of galactic society, one founded not on domination, but on the principle that had guided humanity through its darkest hour, that liberty, once secured for oneself, is meaningless, unless extended to all. In the vast archives of galactic history, the conflict would be recorded under many names. The Liberation War, the Ascendancy Fall, the Freedom Cascade. But among the species once destined for harvesting, it was known simply as humanity's promise, the moment when one species, faced with its own destruction, chose instead to fight not just for itself, but for the right of all sentient life to determine its own destiny. And across the galaxy, whenever tyrants rose or freedom faltered, the story would be told of the Phoenix Rising and its admiral with golden eyes, who had stared into the face of ancient power and declared, "No more." Some said that in the region where the Singularity had formed, unusual phenomena could sometimes be observed. Quantum fluctuations that defied standard physics, brief emissions of energy that matched no known pattern. Scientists hypothesized these were merely after-effects of the Singularity Protocol. But spacers and pilots who traversed the region told different stories. They spoke of phantom sensor readings resembling a great ship, of strange transmissions that appeared and vanished, of momentary glimpses of a vessel that couldn't possibly exist, with a name emblazoned across its bow, Phoenix Rising. Just stories, of course. Myths born from hope and remembrance. But in a galaxy where humanity had rewritten the very laws of physics to secure freedom, perhaps some stories carried their own kind of truth.